Now we'll be installing our BKMOTO HID projector and halo kit into the 08 through 2010 GSXR 600 and 750 headlight. First thing we want to do is, of course, remove the headlight from the bike. Once you have the headlight removed, take out the light bulbs from the headlight and the center bulb as well, and we'll need to open up the headlight by removing the front lens. There's a seam right here that has glue inside, which we need to heat up so we can remove the front lens from the back part of the headlight. It's basically separate the headlight. So before you do anything, there are 3 screws right here, 1, 2, and 3, that hold the headlight together. You need to undo unscrew them first. And save them for later, because we'll be putting these back when we seal the headlights. Now once you remove the 3 screws, you'll need a way to heat up the glue that's inside the seam all around the headlight. And once the glue is hot, you can simply take a flathead screwdriver and stick it in the seam and basically twist it, and then move it, twist it, and then you'll start separating the headlight. It's fairly easy to open once the glue is hot enough. Now there are 2 methods to heat up the glue inside the headlight. The first method is using a heat gun. Heat guns are very inexpensive. This particular one was $9 in Harbor Freight. They have really good sales sometimes on these, but normally they're about $20 or so. So it's a good cheap way, an easy way to open the headlight is buying a heat gun. If you don't have a heat gun and don't want to buy one, you can use your regular oven in your kitchen. So to use the oven, you will need to preheat the oven to 225 degrees Fahrenheit and place the headlight in the middle of the oven at 225 degrees and keep it there for 7 minutes. Then remove the headlight, and the glue should be hot enough at this point, and then you can start separating the headlight with your screwdriver. We'll be using a heat gun. So to use a heat gun, you just put the heat gun on the high setting and simply point it at the seam where the glue is and move it very, very slowly all around the headlight. Move it very, very slowly. You're basically pointing about 6 inches away from the seam where the glue is, and moving it very slowly around the headlight. And you'll probably want to go around the headlight about 2-3 times to get the glue hot enough. And when you use a heat gun, don't hold it in one spot, because you'll see the plastic starts getting shiny and then it'll start melting. So you just keep moving. If you see something is getting too shiny, just move away from that spot to the next spot. It's very unlikely you'll damage anything. So just keep an eye out and keep moving around the headlight. And then once the glue is hot enough, simply take a flathead screwdriver and start prying it open with your flathead screwdriver, just like this. And then you can also use like a potty knife, one of these, and then twist it open, and the headlight will start separating. And remove the front lens. I already pre-opened this headlight, so for this video. And don't forget to open up these little tabs. While you're opening the headlight, you just basically just pull them up and then start separating. So now we have the headlight open. And now we'll be installing BKMOTO Audi style LED strips into the lenses. We have two varieties of LED strips. The first model is our flexible model LED strip. It is a thicker LED strip. It does not have any adhesive on it, so you will need to use clear silicone, which could be purchased together with your kit, to glue down the LED strip. This LED strip can be cut with scissors in groups of 3 LEDs. So basically all you have to do is, when you get the strip, place it against the headlight with the surface where you'll be mounting it. I'm just measuring it on the outside. We're actually going to mount it on the inside of the headlight, behind the lens. But as you can see, this is already perfectly sized for this mounting location. But if you just want the LED strip, let's say just across the top, then obviously we need to cut off some LEDs. In this case, we need to cut off 3 LEDs to fit it across the top. So we just use scissors and cut groups of 3 LEDs to the size that you want. To mount this LED strip, you will basically make sure you wear rubber gloves and do not touch the lens on the inside with your fingers. You will leave fingerprints, and they are a pain to get off, to clean off. So basically you would place the strip with the LEDs facing forward into the lens. Then make the bend with the strip, just like this. Then I would recommend taping it in about 2 spots where the bend is, with electrical tape. So simply tape it down with electrical tape so it stays in place, and then you apply clear silicone right behind the strip. While the strip is already placed, you just apply clear silicone behind it, around the strip, and let it dry for 24 hours. And here you can see how the strip looks like once it's placed. This type of strip, it's thick, so you can see it even when it's off, and it offers a good amount of LEDs on the strip. Then we have our second model of LEDs, this is our newest X2 side emitting LED strips. They are very, very slim, about 2 millimeters thick, and they have a very good amount of LEDs on them, about the same amount as the flexible model, and the brightness is also the same. This type of LED strip is very discreet, because it's so thin. Once you install it into the headlight, you can barely tell that it's there until you actually turn it on. And these LED strips also have 3M adhesive on the back, so basically they're very easy to install. Simply peel off the double-sided tape, peel off the tape on the back and stick the LED strip facing forward behind the clear lens. With this type of LED strip, they are side emitting, so they shine the light forward. You have to turn on the LED strip to see which way they shine, because once you install it, you don't want the LEDs to shine into the headlight. You want them to shine out of the headlight. To just test this, it takes 2 seconds. Just take the power lead and connect the red wire to your plus on the battery, black to minus, and the LED strip will come on, and then you can see which way it shines. Now this LED strip can also be cut. As you can see, it's a little too long for this particular headlight, and you have specifically marked locations. At every 3 LEDs there's a picture of scissors, and this is the location where you can cut the LED strip with scissors. So again, simply place it against your desired area where you want the strip to be, and you can see the closest scissor location is here. So we'll simply cut the LED strip in this location. You can toss this away, and now you have the correct length to install. So to install this strip, it's very straightforward. Simply place the LED strip right against the lens, across on this lip right here, with the LEDs facing forward into the lens. So after you tested which way the LEDs shine, you place them facing forward. So simply peel off the double-sided tape and stick the LED strip. So simply continue sticking the LED strip facing forward right behind the lens, right against the lens. And be careful not to touch the clear lens with your fingers. And now the strip is installed, and as you can see from the front, you can't really tell, almost can't tell that it's there, but you will see it when it's on, and it's very bright. Now also I recommend to reinforce the glue. The glue is pretty good on these strips, the tape, but you still want to reinforce it a little bit. What I use is crazy glue, and this is the type with the brush. You want the type with the brush because it's a lot more precise and easier to apply. And I just basically what I do is I lift up the LED strip in a few spots, like in the beginning, in the middle, next to the bend. That's where they like to get unglued, and at the tip, all the way at the end. So basically what I do is I pick up the LED strip a little bit, and I just put a little tiny dab of crazy glue right under the strip, and then I hold it on with my finger for like a minute until it dries. Now, be extremely careful with crazy glue. Do not get any on your lens. If you get any smudges on the lens, you'll never get them off. Don't even try it, you'll just smudge it worse. But if you'll be careful, the bond is very strong and holds the strip very well. And I like to do this as a precaution, so the LED strip would never get unglued in a spot, and then you have to open up the headlights again. And that's pretty much how we install LED strips. You can be creative with the locations. I mean, the usual location is across the bottom. You can run them across the top. You can run them just on the outside edges. Basically, you can cut them to any size. If you want to do the wings effect, where you have a triangle type of effect here in the corners, basically the corner like this, you would need to buy 2 sets of LED strips from us, which will be 4 pieces, and do 1 short piece across the top, as far out as you want, and then 1 short piece across the bottom. You can't make such a sharp bend with LED strips with 1 piece, so you would want a 4-piece set, and then just simply glue them in a 2-piece, 1 across the top, 1 across the bottom. Or you can do a perimeter LEDs, which is also a 4-piece set, where you glue 1 strip across the top and 1 strip across the bottom, and you have LEDs all around the headlight. So you can get creative with this. And that's it, we are done. Next step, we'll be putting the headlight back together. Once we have the headlight open, we'll be removing the front cover from the stock projector and removing the entire reflector assembly from the headlight. So you need to unscrew these 4 screws right here. 1, 2, and there's 2 more screws underneath, over here on the bottom, and remove this cover. We removed the stock projector cover. And now we'll remove the whole reflector assembly together with the middle projector. To remove that, you need to unscrew these, well, they won't unscrew. You need to turn these 2 adjustment screws counterclockwise. And basically over here you can see this thread. This is a thread of the insert. So as you turn the back screws, this part will come forward and eventually will come off the screw. And there's one over here also with this screw. And there's 3 mounting points, the 2 screws on the back, and the 3rd mounting point is right here. You will need to simply snap it off. It's like a ball and a cover. So this part right here just snaps off. So to undo the back screws, just turn them counterclockwise. As I'm doing this, you can see this whole assembly is moving. Okay, this part is almost done. And then you need to snap off this part. So be careful not to break it. It shouldn't be too hard to snap off. Now we'll be trimming the reflectors so we can fit the projectors and mount them into the reflectors. As you can see here, the projectors don't fit in the opening of the reflector. It's because the GSXR reflectors are very narrow, top to bottom, so the projectors do not fit. But once we trim them, they'll fit perfectly into the reflector. This would not jeopardize the structural integrity of the reflector. We're not cutting anywhere near to the mounting points on the reflectors, so you don't have to worry about them falling apart on you. Essentially what we need to cut is an opening along the bottom right here, going in, basically a rectangle on the bottom. So once you insert the projector, you want to make sure that it's right here. If you look like this, right here you'll have an opening like this, so the projector can fit without the reflector being in the way. We only need to cut the bottom portion, the portion on the bottom right here, a rectangle. We're not going to touch the top portion since it has the mounts, and the top portion is not in the way. It's not going to interfere. Once we make an opening here, the reflector will projector just pop right in, and the top portion is not going to interfere. So essentially just let's mark the location where we need to cut. When you put the projector in, you can see that's right here. The reflector is in the way. So let's mark the spot. Approximately from here to here. It'll be from here. Let's bring down a straight line and across to the edge and straight down. This is the rectangle we're going to cut out of the reflector. So we mark the spot. Okay, we marked the location, and let's start trimming. This is very easy to do with the Dremel and a cutting bit. Like this. You should wear a dust mask so you don't breathe this plastic dust, and safety goggles. Okay, let's get started. We have cut out the slot right here in the reflector, and as you can see, the reflector is still, structurally intact. And let's test for the projector. Make sure it fits right. So you simply insert it into the light bulb hole, into the light bulb hole. And we can see that right here, it's not going all the way in, because right here it's still touching. So let's just cut a little triangle off, so this piece is not touching. Over here there's nothing touching, so this is still interfering with the reflector going in, so just cut off a little piece. And don't worry, you're not gonna see any of these cuts. Once the headlight is put together, you're not gonna see any of the cuts, because the projector will be on top of it. So the end result is still gonna be very clean. So we still need to cut right here. And let's test fit again. Okay, nothing is touching here, but we still have the reflector right here, stopping this part from going all the way in. So let's cut this opening all the way to the end. Okay, let's test fit this one more time, and hopefully this will do the trick. As you can see, we cut this all the way to the end right here, just like that, basically most of the bottom. And now nothing is touching the projector on the bottom, and we are able to fit the projector all the way in. You can see the projector sits all the way in there, and there's plenty of shaft coming out the back. And now the projector fits properly. So here's the shape you need to cut, basically from here to here, like that. And now cut the second reflector. Now from the center trim piece, we need to cut off these wings because they would interfere with the projector and they don't really add anything to the look of the headlight anyway. So just cut them neatly right at edge with your Dremel. So as you can see, I cut off the wing and then just sand this down a little bit so it'll be nice and neat. Just use any regular sanding paper. File this down a little and trim the second half. and we trimmed off both of the wings. So next step would be to wash off the reflectors, let them dry, and we'll be ready to paint them and black them out if you wish to have a blacked out headlight look. Okay, we have trimmed the reflectors as necessary. We cut this piece out. You can see right here. We cut the bottom out. And we trimmed these pieces right here. These two pieces that were like this. And on the second reflector, same thing. We trimmed the bottom. And we blacked out the reflectors, which is optional, but it makes the headlight look better. We blacked out the center trim piece, and we blacked out the other reflector. And now we're just gonna put the headlight back together. So start. You can start with the reflectors. These 3 screws. Screw them back into here. And put the reflector back on. Put the second reflector back on. And now let's put the center trim piece back on. Just 4 screws right here, and the screws are here. If you are installing a halo ring to the center projector also, it's very simple. You just glue it right here, right to the front of this circle. Just glue the halo ring right here, and then you put it together. In this headlight, we're just installing the two outer projectors with halos already on the projectors, and demonize. Okay, we put together the reflector assembly, and now we can mount the projectors. Let's mount the projectors into the reflectors. First thing you want to do is remove the light bulb. There's a small screw right here that holds the light bulb, so simply unscrew it and take out the HID bulb. Try not to lose these, and place the bulb somewhere clean, preferably hanging off of something. Never touch the glass on the bulb with your hands. Okay. I'm just making sure all the screws are tight on the projector before mounting it. And now we're ready to mount. So what you want to do is basically simply insert the projector into the light bulb hole, and when you insert the projector, you have this shield right there on top. You can see the metal, there's a metal shield right there, you can see it. And this is the halo ring, and it has a little white gap over here. So when you insert it, you want to make sure the gap is facing down, completely down 6 o'clock, and this shield is completely horizontal, basically horizontal. So don't mount the projector like this or like that or upside down. You want to mount it so this gap is completely down, and this shield on top, you can see it right here, no, is horizontal. That way the projector is properly oriented. So simply insert the projector into the light bulb hole. Just like this. And then place the unit on your table and make sure this is completely down and the shield is going straight across. Then take your locking ring and the rear nut. Put the locking ring on the projector shaft. Then you need to apply a thread lock, medium or high strength, and to the shaft. And this is so the projector does not come loose from the bike's vibrations. So apply thread lock to the thread and secure the rear nut. And you can use needle nose pliers for the final tightening. Actually, let's take off this black plate. It's in the way of the nut. This plate is not needed anymore. This is a locking plate for your original light bulbs, which you're no longer using. So you're not gonna need it. So now we have better access to the rear nut. And now simply tighten it. The first projector is tight, and simply insert the second projector and follow the same steps. Adjust the projector. So this is facing down and the line is completely horizontal. Remove this black trim piece. Put on the rear locking nut, thread lock, and tighten the rear nut while holding the projector in the front so it doesn't spin on you. And we have our projectors mounted. And now it's time to put this entire assembly back into the headlight. Now let's mount the assembly back into the headlight. So just pull out the wires from the back openings. And now let's put the assembled projector unit into the headlight assembly. So simply put it back in the way we removed it onto these two adjustment screws, back them in a little bit, and then snap in the third mounting point. And snap in the third mounting point. We secured the projector housing in the headlight unit. And now let's put all the plugs on the halos and demoni wires and on the red black high-low beam wires. So simply snap in the pins into the plugs. Now this particular headlight has angel eyes, halos and demon eyes. So it has 4 white wires and they're all identical. What I did before I put the projector in the housing, I marked which wires are in pair by putting a black dot with a marker on the wires. It's basically each projector has 2 rings, one for the demon eyes and one for the angel eyes. And you can't mix and match the wires. They have to be on the same plug. So the angel eye ring, the 2 wires have to be on one plug, and the demon eye ring has to be on a different plug. If you mix them up and you put one wire from an angel eye ring and one wire from a demon eye ring on one plug, then they won't light up to full brightness. They'll be pretty dim. So before putting the projector in there, you can clearly see where the wires are going, and just put something to mark the wires so you know it's a pair. So I just put basically one dot on these 2 wires. That way I know they're a pair. So now simply insert them into the plugs. Each plug has 3 openings. You only use the 2 outside openings, don't use the middle one. Okay, we put the plugs onto the wires, and now what I recommend doing is taking these wires and zip tying them around to this round piece. And this is so you won't accidentally pull on any of the wires and have it pull out from the ring or snap off. So basically put them in a bunch, push them in a little bit to give the wires some slack inside of the headlight. You don't want the wires tight because they can pretty easily get pulled out from each ring. So by zip tying them to this piece, they'll be secure and there's much less of a chance for them to get pulled out. So take a zip tie, push the wires in a little bit to give it some slack inside. And then simply zip tie them inside. Just like this. So you can see them zip tied. And now when you pull on the wires, they're secure. And when you install the headlight, make sure these wires, nothing will pull on these and yank them out of the headlight. And do the same for the other side. And now, as you can see, the wires are secured by the zip tie. And they have some slack over here inside the headlight, so they're not tight. And now simply put the rear rubber covers back on. And the second rubber cover. And the back of your headlight is almost complete. We have assembled the back of the headlight. Now let's put the HID bulbs into the headlight housing. So insert the bulbs into the projectors. And secure them with the little nut, or with the screw. Insert the second bulb. And insert the bulb back into your center low beam projector. In this case we're installing an HID bulb in here. And the back of your headlight is done. Now just clean off the projectors and we'll be ready to reseal the headlight. Everything is assembled and now we are ready to put the lens back on and seal the headlight. So remove the 3 screws from here. So those are the same screws we removed before we opened the headlight. I just like to keep screws in the same spots so they don't get lost. And now, depending on how you opened your headlight, if you used the oven method, you'll basically do the same thing again. You'll preheat your oven to 225 Fahrenheit degrees. Once the oven is hot, you take your lens and lightly put it onto the headlight, not pressing it all the way in. Then you put the entire headlight assembly into your oven for 5 minutes at 225 degrees Fahrenheit. Once 5 minutes passes, remove the whole assembly and simply press in the lens into the headlight and screw in the 3 screws that you removed that hold the lens back into the headlight. Or if you're using a heat gun, simply reheat the groove again with your heat gun and press in the lens fully and put in the 3 little screws. So we're using a heat gun today, and I'll be reheating the lens, reheating the glue with the heat gun. Turn your heat gun to the high setting. And simply reheat the groove. Okay, the glue is hot enough, and now just simply take the lens and press it in. I like to use these, make life much easier. So you just clamp down on the headlight all around, and let the clamp stay there until the headlight cools off. Close all the tabs. And put the little screws back into the headlight. And that's it. Let the headlight cool down and you'll be done with the build. Now test the headlight to make sure everything is working. Testing is very simple. Just connect the inverter into your angel eyes and demon eyes, and then the inverter has red and black wires. You simply connect those to your battery, red positive, black negative, and make sure everything's functioning. I actually recommend testing everything before you seal the lens, so you don't have to reopen the headlight if something is not working right. But this is what you accomplished. That's how your headlight looks like. And next step is just to wire everything the way you want the headlight to function. Now we'll be doing the wiring for the GSXR headlight. These are the plugs that will plug into your motorcycle. These plug into your stock light bulb sockets that used to plug into your original light bulbs. If you are getting our HID upgrade for your center low beam, you will get 2 of these plugs. One for the high beam circuit, which you have 2 high beams and a center low beam. So we're gonna plug one of these into your high beam socket, and one of these going to your low beam middle headlight socket. It doesn't matter which one, they're identical. This is the wire that will power your low beam HID ballast. We're gonna connect this end to the H11 socket that plugs into your motorcycle low beam plug, and it will power your ballast for the center low beam. So essentially, once you plug this into your low beam socket, the red wire would be your low beam positive wire, and the black wire is your low beam negative or ground. We will use the low beam positive to power the ballast, the low beam HID ballast, as well as your angel eyes, demon eyes, and LED strips if you purchased those options. So all the accessories would be powered from your low beam positive and grounded to your low beam negative. Now the second plug is your plug that plugs into the high beam, and this would give us, the red wire would be the high beam positive and the black wire would be the high beam negative ground. These 2 wires are the power wires that would power the inverter boxes which look like this. These are your CCFL inverters. These boxes power the angel eyes and demon eye rings, so they'll power your halos, angel eyes, and demon eyes if you purchase those. And these plugs simply plug in right here to provide power to the inverters. And in this particular configuration, we're gonna add a simple on-off switch to on-off switch, so we can turn off the center low beam manually, and just have the two outer halos and demon eyes without the center low beam. And this is just a waterproof cover for the switch. To mount this switch, it's very simple. All you have to do is drill a 3/4 inch hole in your fairing. Typically a good spot is underneath the handlebars on your bike. Under the clutch handle you have a flat piece of plastic that goes towards the headlight, and it's a flat piece, so it's a good spot to drill a 3/4 inch hole. So all you do is drill the hole, and you snap in the switch into the hole, and then it's nice and flush with your plastic and looks very clean. And you can also put the waterproof cover on the switch if you choose to. And then we have our dual output BiXenon relay harness. This would power the two outside projectors, the two high beam projectors, and will draw power directly from the battery to power the two projector HIDs. It has a few connections you need to make. They're all labeled. So essentially, this wire is your positive wire, and it's labeled. Connect to battery. So you connect this wire to the plus in your battery. Then you have two more connections to make, which are these two wires. These are your ground wires right here. They need to be grounded for the ballast to work. You have to ground these into the bike's main frame, the big metal frame on the bike. Essentially what you're going to do is on the sides of the bike, you're going to take out a bolt that screws into the metal frame on your motorcycle. You're going to put the bolt through this hole and screw it back into the bike. And make sure you have a good grounding point. If your HIDs are not coming on, most likely these are not grounded properly. And then these two big plugs, they're the same as this plug. They would connect to your high beam ballasts for the two outside projectors. And then these two little plugs, they connect to the back of the headlight, to the projector as well, and they control your high beam, low beam function in the projector. Now we have a few different ways to wire the headlights. The GSXR has a very unique headlight where there's actually 3 headlights in it. 1 center low beam and 2 outer high beams. And once you put the projectors in, the easiest way is to make the outside projectors, leave them as high beams and use the center one as your low beam. But you can technically have 3 low beams and 2 high beams if you choose to do so. It's all a matter of how you connect these 3 wires. These 3 wires on the relay, they're labeled. The white wire is turns on your low beams in the 2 outer projectors, so it needs to be hooked up to the low beam positive. The yellow wire turns on the high beam function in your projectors, so it needs to be hooked up to your high beam positive. And the ground wire is just a ground wire, which will go into your high beam ground. In this setup, we'll keep it in stock form. So we'll be using the center projector for low beam, then the two halos and demon eyes as the running lights together with the low beam. Those will always be on when the bike is running. And the two outer HID projectors, they'll be used as high beams. But I will also show you how to do triple low beams and dual high beams. And we will also have the switch. This switch would control the center low beam. So you can have the center low beam on and the two angel eyes and demon eyes, or you can have the center off and just have the two angel eyes and demon eyes. And that's what the switch is for. So let's start. First we need to take care of our low beam circuit. So let's take one of these plugs. And the red would be our low beam positive, and black is our low beam negative. Then this powers the HID ballast on the low beam center light. You need to chop off these prongs, you don't need those. So cut them off. Then strip the wire. And here's how we'll be connecting everything. We want the angel eyes and demon eyes to always be on when the bike is running. So we'll connect them directly to the low beam positive, since the low beam positive circuit is always on when the bike is running. And then we'll connect the switch to the ballast wire. These would go before the switch, so they will not be affected by the switch on off function. So take both of these wires for the two inverters and twist them together. Then take the two ground wires, the black wires from the inverters, twist them together. And now take one of the wires from your switch and twist them together with the two reds. So now we have one of the wires from the switch twisted together with the two red positive inverter wires. And we will take this bunch and we will connect it to the red low beam positive wire. This is the plug we're going to plug into the center light socket. The easiest way to connect wires is with crimp connectors. These are heat shrink crimp connectors. They're great because they're easy to use, and you can heat them up with a heat gun and they'll shrink and create a watertight seal. You can get these and a crimping tool from any Radio Shack. So simply crimp them together and connect these three wires into the red low beam positive on the plug. Now take the black ground wires together and twist it together. So take the black ground wires from the CCFL inverter plugs and twist it together with the ballast plug ground wire, which is the black wire. And we'll be connecting these 3 ground wires to the low beam negative on the low beam plug. So we have 3 ground wires from the inverter plugs and from the ballast plug for the low beam. And we're connecting these 3 to the low beam negative. Okay, and now to complete the circuit, so our center low beam comes on. The only wire we have left is the positive wire on the ballast plug, and that wire gets connected to the second wire on the on-off switch. And we are done with our low beam circuit and the halos and demon eyes. So essentially what we have is our low beam plug, with the red being low beam positive, black being low beam negative. The low beam positive red wire splits 3 ways. It powers, basically the power is coming from the bike through the red wire, and it splits 3 ways here. One way is into the switch, which in turn into the switch, and the power flows through the switch, and when the switch is on, the power continues to flow into this plug to power the center HID ballast. When the switch is off, the power is not flowing through the switch, so power would not be getting to this plug. Then the low beam center light is off. And besides the switch split, the power is also flowing into these 2 plugs, which power the inverters for the angel eyes, halos, and demon eyes. And these are not on a switch because the power is just split 2 ways. Some of it is going to the switch, and this way is going directly to the inverters. So when the bike is on, this wire always has power. This wire, the low beam positive, always has power, so it powers the angel eyes. So when the bike is on, there's always power to the low beam positive, and the inverters are getting the power directly from the low beam positive without being affected by the switch. So simply plug these into your inverters, plug this into the ballast for the center low beam light and plug this into your light bulb socket for the center headlight. If your headlight and engine light is not coming on, most likely you have this plug plugged in upside down, because it plugs in both ways. So simply flip over the plug and plug it back in, and then everything should start working, because this plug plugged in could be plugged in upside down. Okay, we have our low beam circuit complete, and the angelize and demonize, and the last part we need is to take care of our high beam circuit for the two outside projectors. This is the plug that plugs into your high beam plug. Red is high beam positive, black is high beam negative. So all we do is connect the red wire high beam positive, to the wire that's labeled high beam plus, high beam positive, the yellow wire on the relay harness. And this would send the signal from the bike to the harness to turn on the high beams when you flip your regular handlebar switch into high beams. So let's just connect the yellow wire from the harness, the high beam positive, into the red high beam positive wire. And then connect the black high beam negative to the black ground wire on the relay harness. And that's it. All the wiring is complete. Now you have one wire that's left, which is the white wire on the harness. This is the low beam negative wire. Low beam positive wire. If this wire gets power, it turns on low beam mode in the two outside projectors. In this setup, we're keeping the bike in stock lighting form, where your center is your low beam, the two outsides are your high beams. If you want to have triple low beams, so 3 low beams and 2 high beams, so when you turn on the bike, the center comes on low beam and the 2 outer projectors come on in low beam mode. So you have 3 low beams for super bright headlights. All you have to do is connect this white wire, which is our low beam positive relay wire, into the same spot where the center, the low beam ballast positive wire. So this red wire from the ballast for the center light, connect the white wire to the same spot where the red wire is. It's basically the second wire coming out of the switch, which goes into the red wire on the ballast plug. So in this crimp, you're also gonna add the white wire from the relay. So basically, when you turn on the switch for your center light to come on, the white wire would also get power, and it would turn on both of the outside projectors and low beams also. So this way you're gonna have 3 low beams on the bike. Otherwise, if you're keeping it as high beams, the 2 outside projectors, simply don't connect this wire anywhere and just tuck it away. And that's it, you're done. Enjoy the new headlights, and this kit is available on BKMOTO.com.